It's in Yammy Bachelor Public and Ghana Hanam no be to me see. Say say more video evidence, any picture evidence. I was over Jim Wachiness and Yano Creda. Landlord be a very big surprise after say ni fee out the man rent. Ewo Accra Usuno. Okohwe ya ni ba kro na obeji fie se o tinem no tenant no be rent fie no. Wa tene fie no abeye ninth club apartment. Aha Penyah block media. Message say any dey mo. Over like video no ada one subscribe button so we click better page na connect latest updates. Na be kire wadwen e dey ama me e wo comment section. Message was oba so a no ahye video na ma onua so enya bi ahye. Eti mu na TikTok na me scroll and I'm copy a very beautiful young lady. I say na odi nkomo. Ani kuma odi na se nyina ne say efia omame apobrasie efie no Accra osu a 2020 ni mu ene wa omame ko ho say oye renovation because obi abafie no ho say obese or rent it omu ya renovation edan mu a chairman omu ho no mu a ana say there were a whole lot of rumors say efie na mo dey rent to that guy no attend efie no from residential to commercial apartment. What turning feeling to commercial apartment or your night club or the feeling than a night club? Celebrities, ebe ba be both shows, ebe ye birthday party, just a name of one year of your mono swimming pool party, and name of you of your mono. And yes, Mukuma. It will read and say, then a chateau apartment, chateau night club. Any chateau in French means your place. Chateau and chateau so agidini pa chateau agidini lady no ebe man account no o se ade a eye na hiwa se we mu kura ne se e dan na guy ni timu no rent kura ontua rent bo nu na nya kokoduro bi fi ode ama onu na be ye renovation mu abetu swimming pool nyina wo mu a convert efie no to commercial use lady trim say even it was even omo de asem no echo courts any police ansana aban ehye gentleman say onto free efie honum I see ade guy no free efie honum.
I feel like this is a good place to start, so let's get into it. I'm Mika. I'm the daughter of the landlord that fell victim to this situation. And I do want to give you guys a part 2, but I feel like I should just give you a brief story time or whatever, just to add some clarification and maybe answer some questions I was getting in the comments. So we'll do that very quickly, and then I'll get back to you guys later with all the footage and all the stuff. All right, so boom. Back in 2020, my mom renovated this house all through the summer and fall after we were coming out of lockdown. She invested a lot of her retirement money to bring the house from that old school version that you guys saw in the first frame into something that was more modern. So I'm currently in the house right now, just to give you an example. Like the POP was done by her. She redid all the tiles in every single bedroom, redid the showers, put in water heaters, the whole works. Like it was a typical old school Ghanaian house, and she modernized it before we gave it to this tenant. Early 2021 into 2022 is when this whole debacle was starting. He told us that he wanted somewhere residential that he could host his business partners when they come into town. I guess he does a lot of business with foreigners and he didn't want to put them up in the hotel. So we understood that he was renting a house that from time to time he would accommodate, or he would let his business associates stay in. I hope that's clear. There was no indication whatsoever about this being a bar, a private club, anything that would commercialize it. That was not, we were not privy to that. If we knew that, the rent would have been way higher. I started to, well, I'll say we started to notice that he was making changes not even like 2 months into the lease. I actually had made a visit here. I think I was with one of the workers and I think like a cousin of mine, and we stopped in. We realized he had repainted the entire place without our knowledge, and he started to he had knocked down we had an outdoor gazebo. He had knocked it down and started to build some sort of structure. So that's originally where the problem started. So obviously, as landlords do, we had confronted him about the situation. Now, there's various parts of the story which I won't go into too much detail with because I'm not trying to give too much away. There were various conversations and like confrontations that we had with him with regards to all these changes being made, right? I felt like he would either beat around the bush or make it seem like he was benefiting us by adding this stuff. And I think in order for my mom to get her rent and her return on investment, we were allowing a certain amount of leeway, which I now regret. But at the same time, like, he was going absolutely overboard with it. And it got to the point where his own security would not allow us to get onto the property and see what was going on. Another question, how did we find out it was a bar? Well, a few things. One, the neighbors told us about the noise complaint. Two, I had been invited to a soft opening for a local bistro bar by my friend, we'll call her Amy. Amy was like, I got a little cute spot, let's go have some champs, let's chill with the girls. When I tell you that I was following the address to come, and I was like down on Ring Road, and I was coming around the corner, I was like, my mom's house is in this neighborhood. Lo and behold, the bar is my mom's house. At that point, I realized like it was too far gone. The pool had been put in, an outdoor kitchen had been built. Like, the whole entire compound was so drastically changed. So instead of making a scene, I did like record everything. I told my mom about it. I had videos of everything. But that was at that point where we were like, okay, we're not being paid our worth. We need to like go back to the drawing board. But our biggest fear, besides any of the rent or like what he was doing, because I know some people were like, oh, we saw a restaurant and we wanted a restaurant back. None of us are restaurateurs. We're not trying to run a bar or a restaurant. Or, like, no, this is a residential building. We are a family. We were trying to rent it out to other families or people who were family oriented. We didn't want to turn this into a commercialized business. I think one big factor was we were almost really desperate to get our return on investment and really just needed him to pay the rent. And what he would do sometimes, which is really embarrassing to admit, is he would like give us just a little bit of rent to like keep us at bay, and then we would be chasing and chasing and chasing, and he would ignore our calls. At one point, which is really sad, at one point he had me, my sister, and my mom waiting in a parking lot outside of Echo Bank to wait for him to come and pay rent. He had us waiting there for like 4 hours and he never showed up. These are all instances of the type of human being we were dealing with. Our biggest fear was that he was doing all of these changes in order to eventually take the house from us. This was a serious conversation I had with family members, with my mom and everything, that because my mom doesn't stay in Ghana, I live in Ghana, but my mom is in the States. So we were thinking that he was like kind of slithering his way into essentially making this property his, and when it was time to take the house back after the 5 years, he would have done something with maybe Ghana Lands Commission or something to claim that he had invested a certain amount in the property and the house was his. Listen, I know that sounds ridiculous, but this is Ghana. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Anyway, the video is long enough as it is. I'm so sorry, guys. I just wanted to make sure that I touched on a few things before I send you guys or like show you guys the part 2, because there's so much more that is said through all the footage that I have, and I recorded as much as possible. I think once we had found out that he had changed this bar, immediately we were like, we need to take legal action. We were looking for a lawyer. We even ended up firing one lawyer because he was highly incompetent, and we got a new one, and God bless Nana, I absolutely love her. But she really saved us, you know. And I think it was about a 2-year uphill battle, and it was probably one of the most difficult things I think my family has had to go through with regards to just trying to keep a house and reclaim something that was ours. So yeah, I will get the part two stuff to you guys as soon as I can. But thank you for listening, and I really, really, really appreciate all the empathy. I'm not gonna get emotional. I really appreciate all the empathy that everyone has shown to this family during this situation. So God bless you all. So this was just a few hours after the eviction took place. We were just walking through to assess the changes that had been made, as well as any damages. Mind you, it had been almost 2 years since I had walked through this property like in detail. So I was just taking everything in. And just for comparison, this is what the place used to look like back when we were renovating in 2020. So it was very much an open floor plan. There were no like structural divides in the living area, plenty of light coming through the windows. So we did feel like, what the tenant had done had given it a completely new layout, one we did not like. But anyway, walking through the rest of the house, we noticed quite a few damages. They may not have been anything major, but they were more annoying than anything, right? Because it just showed a lack of care and respect for someone's property. But you know what? It is what it is. I guess it comes with the territory of being a landlord, but we found various things missing, like cabinets in the kitchen, stovetop pieces were missing, wall outlets, the sockets, light switches, things like that. Anywho, because the house is an older house, the rising damp didn't surprise us, but it's not necessarily the tenant's fault. I just wish he would have told us so that we could have mitigated the progression of it. Instead, it was all covered up with wallpaper. Anyway, he had sent his people to come and remove all the plasterboard over the windows. They had also covered this beautiful glass divide that led to the corridor, so I had them take that down as well. Over the next few days, they had come to dismantle the cabanas and the outside bar that they had put in the backyard, but that ended up also causing a lot of damages. We were really just focused on trying to get them out as soon as possible so that we could have our property back. We noticed that there was a lot of paint chipping because he decided to paint the house black and then white again. He had also added this sort of like ledge on the roof for extra spotlights, I guess. Yeah. And then he ended up taking the water pump, and when we asked him to put it back, he brought one that wasn't working. So I just felt like that was really petty. And then worst of all, we came to realize that he rewired all the electricals in order to give each room its own ECG meter, which I'm pretty sure is illegal, but it took 3 electricians and thousands to fix this. Anyway, this is where the pool used to be. He covered it up with sand and tiles, and then this is where the outdoor bar was. And we're trying to figure out how to fix this up because there's like all these pipes sticking out and electrical wires. So I think this is going to take a little bit more brain power. But anyway, this was like 1 month after we cleaned up pretty much everything ourselves because we realized the tenant was not going to commit to the restoration. And so we ended up having to do the restoration ourselves. So a lot of that started with trying to take care of a lot of the damp proofing, making sure like any damages due to the things that they had done were fixed before we could even think about painting it and whatnot.
In fact, and so easy as we are there, they ask you, how hell on this earth say obedient if you are rental now they year to digging for so good rent ground here. Just what would change the appearance of the house complete. What change it complete? Or your home advert with TV, soon radio, soon in a Chatua apartment, Chatua Land Club, or your home advert in I say, a base or no any project away. Oh, did you see? Now, no, what me to know if you hold them. I say, we are Fabiano. Issue way, a trend, the El Monchimonga highway. So, over to my travel, ever home, ever conversation. I Penyah.